1995 was a strange year for horror. While mainstream audiences were watching Seven and The Usual Suspects, a different kind of darkness was unfolding in the margins. On video store shelves, in limited theatrical runs, and through indie distribution channels that most people never noticed. These weren't the films that dominated the box office or earned critical acclaim. They were the weird ones, the cheap ones, the ambitious failures and surprising successes that slipped through the cracks. Direct-to-video sequels, sitting next to genuine indie experiments. Low-budget creature features, sharing space with philosophical vampire meditations. Some were studio dumping grounds, others were passion projects that barely found distribution at all, but 1995 offered something increasingly rare. Variety. Horror that took risks, explored uncomfortable ideas, and wasn't afraid to be messy, strange, or defiantly uncommercial. This is a look back at 10 overlooked horror films from 1995, the ones that didn't get the recognition. Night of the Scarecrow, 1995. Rural horror meets supernatural revenge in Night of the Scarecrow, directed by Jeff Burr in 1995. The story begins when a small town accidentally resurrects a vengeful spirit, bound to a scarecrow. What follows is a grisly series of attacks as the entity exacts revenge for past wrongs, turning the quiet community into a bloody battleground. The Scarecrow itself is a striking figure, part monster, part avenger, lurking in cornfields and striking with brutal force. The film embraces classic horror tropes, pitchforks, barns, dark country roads, but infuses them with supernatural flair, making the villain more than just a man in a mask. Instead, the Scarecrow feels elemental, a spirit tied to the land itself. As the killings escalate, the townspeople's buried secrets are dragged into the open, revealing that the Scarecrow's wrath isn't random. Its justice twisted into something monstrous. The film's pacing keeps the tension high, mixing atmospheric dread with splashes of gory spectacle. Night of the Scarecrow may not have been a mainstream hit, but it has earned a place among cult horror fans who love its blend of rural Gothic mood and supernatural mayhem. At its best, it captures the primal fear of the fields at night. Silent, endless, and hiding something waiting to move just beyond the stalks. Children of the Corn 3. Urban Harvest, 1995. Two orphan brothers from Gatlin, Wide-Eyed Joshua and Sinister Young Eli, are adopted by a Chicago couple desperate for a family. But Eli hasn't left the cult behind. Smuggling sacred seeds, he plants a forbidden cornfield in an abandoned urban lot. And soon the city's skeptical teens start falling under his spell. Director James D.R. Hickox boldly transplants the terror to Chicago's concrete jungle, trading endless rural rows for shadowy alleys, high-rise backlots, and crowded schools. The clash is electric, ancient rural fanaticism infiltrating modern indifference. Daniel Cerny chills as the pint-sized preacher Eli, his deadpan sermons turning classmates into killers, including fleeting glimpses of future star Charlize Theron among the blank-faced followers. Practical effects go wild. Gruesome impalements, body horror transformations, ritual sacrifices in unlikely places, all amplified by eerie lighting and disorienting cityscapes that trap victims just as effectively as any corn maze. No fields needed. Urban Harvest proves the entity's reach is limitless, showing how fanaticism thrives anywhere weakness exists. In the heart of the city, an old nightmare finds terrifying new soil to grow. Habit, 1995. A recovering alcoholic drifts through New York City, haunted by a failed relationship and barely holding his life together. When he meets a mysterious woman at a party, the attraction is immediate and consuming. As their relationship intensifies, troubling details surface. She only appears at night. She's drawn to his blood, and after their encounters, he wakes up weaker, marked by wounds he can't explain. Whether he's being preyed upon or unraveling from within becomes increasingly unclear. Larry Fessenden writes, directs, and stars in a stripped-down vampire film that rejects genre spectacle in favor of intimacy and unease. His performance is raw and exposed, channeling addiction, obsession, and self-loathing with uncomfortable honesty. Meredith Snader plays the enigmatic woman with quiet menace, never fully confirming whether she's supernatural or simply a catalyst for his collapse. Shot on 16mm with handheld camera work and natural lighting, the film feels almost documentary-like in its immediacy. Vampire mythology is treated as metaphor as much as threat. Blood becomes addiction. Intimacy becomes consumption. When violence finally surfaces, it's sudden and unromantic, with practical effects used sparingly to puncture the film's subdued tone rather than overwhelm it. Habit is art house horror that earns the label without compromise. It's quiet, personal, and unsettling in ways that linger rather than shock. By framing vampirism as a symptom of emotional decay, Fessenden delivers a film less about monsters than about the slow erosion of self and the people we allow to drain us dry. The Mangler, 1995. The Mangler is pure, unapologetic B-movie madness. Tobe Hooper adapting a Stephen King short story about a possessed industrial laundry machine that's literally eating people. Set in a decaying small-town laundry, the film follows a detective investigating a series of gruesome accidents involving the facility's massive folding machine. What he discovers is something far stranger. The machine has become possessed, requiring human life to maintain its owner's dark bargain. Robert Englund plays the laundry's owner, Bill Gartley, with theatrical malevolence, a man literally twisted by disease and darker forces, hobbling through his factory like a broken puppet. Ted Levine brings grounded determination as the detective trying to make sense of industrial horror that defies logic. The cast plays everything completely straight, which somehow makes the absurdity more entertaining. Hooper leans into the premise's inherent ridiculousness without winking at the camera. The Mangler itself becomes genuinely menacing through sound design, practical effects, and Hooper's framing, all grinding gears, steam, and mechanical violence. The film's climax involves demonic possession, exorcism rituals, and a runaway industrial machine embracing full gonzo energy. Released during the mid-90s when horror was dominated by self-aware slashers and J-horror, The Mangler felt like a relic from another era, earnest, strange, and unapologetically exploitation-minded. Critics savaged it, audiences ignored it, but there's something endearing about its commitment to the bit. Hooper was making the kind of unpretentious creature feature that had become unfashionable, refusing to modernize or apologize. The Mangler is Hooper at his most defiantly B-movie, proving he could still find horror in the most unlikely places. Blood and Donuts, 1995. In the middle of Toronto's neon-lit streets and late-night diners, a vampire awakens after decades of sleep. Rather than terrorizing the city, he's drawn to its quiet corners, befriending a cab driver and a donut shop waitress, while struggling with his thirst for blood. But his attempt at living on the margins of humanity doesn't go unnoticed, as old enemies and new dangers start closing in. Directed by Holly Dale, Blood and Donuts puts a quirky spin on vampire mythology. Gordon Curry plays Boya, the reluctant bloodsucker, while David Cronenberg makes a memorable appearance as a ruthless gangster. The film blends melancholy, romance, and dark humor, making it less about gothic castles and more about late-night loneliness. The visuals lean into dimly lit diners, urban back streets, and that feeling of a city half asleep, the perfect setting for a vampire who just wants to be left alone. It's a small, strange, and very Canadian take on the genre that gives its monster more heart than horror. While never a mainstream hit, Blood and Donuts has earned a reputation as one of the more unusual cult vampire films of the 1990s. Tales from the Hood, 1995. Three gang members arrive at a funeral home to retrieve a stash of drugs, but the eccentric mortician running the place has other intentions. As he guides them through the building, he tells stories connected to the bodies under his care, each one exposing horrors rooted in racism, police brutality, domestic abuse, and systemic injustice. As the night unfolds, it becomes clear these aren't just stories, and the mortician may not be a neutral narrator. Rusty Kundiev directs an anthology that weaponizes horror as social commentary, confronting issues most genre films of the era avoided. Clarence Williams III dominates the film as Mr. Sims, delivering a performance that's theatrical, chilling, and increasingly threatening. The segments are anchored by strong supporting turns from actors like David Alan Grier, Corbin Burnson, and Rosalind Cash, all fully committed to material that refuses to dilute its message. Each tale varies in tone, but reinforces the same moral gravity. Corrupt authority figures face supernatural retribution. Domestic violence manifests as literal haunting. Cycles of abuse and power are punished with brutal irony. Practical effects bring the supernatural elements to life. Vengeful spirits, grotesque transformations, and symbolic violence that feels purposeful rather than gratuitous. The wraparound narrative steadily tightens, culminating in a reveal that reframes everything that came before. Tales from the Hood doesn't aim for comfort or escapism. It's confrontational, politically direct, and unapologetic in its anger. Where most horror anthologies prioritize fun or irony, this one demands attention and reflection. A vital entry in the 1990s horror, it proves the genre is at its most powerful when it has something urgent to say. Candyman, Farewell to the Flesh, 1995. In New Orleans during Mardi Gras, a schoolteacher discovers her family's deep connection to the Candyman legend. Her father was brutally murdered, her brother is accused of killing a skeptic, and she uncovers that her ancestor was the white woman Candyman once loved. The spirit's curse spans generations, linking past and present through violence, grief, and unfulfilled vengeance. Bill Condon directs a sequel that expands the mythology while immersing it in New Orleans' vibrant, yet racially complex environment. Mardi Gras provides spectacle and tension, from crowded parades to shadowed alleyways, although the film occasionally loses the intimate focus of the original. Kelly Rowan portrays the teacher as both target and reluctant heir, navigating terror and responsibility, while Tony Todd returns with commanding presence, his flashbacks to Candyman's lynching, adding tragic weight to the vengeance narrative. Practical effects maintain the franchise's signature brutality, hooks swinging with lethal precision, shattered mirrors, and Todd swarmed by bees. The settings, tombs, decaying mansions, and chaotic parade streets enhance the gothic atmosphere. While the expanded storyline sometimes over-explains the legend, Condon treats the racial and historical dimensions thoughtfully, and Todd preserves Candyman's haunting gravitas, keeping the character's mix of horror and tragedy intact. The Addiction, 1995. The Addiction is a thought-provoking horror film directed by Abel Ferrara, combining elements of philosophy and body horror within the vampire genre. The film follows Kathleen Conklin, played by Lily Taylor, a philosophy graduate student in New York City who becomes entangled in a dark and surreal journey after a fateful encounter with a mysterious woman Casanova, portrayed by Annabella Sciorra. Set against the backdrop of a gritty urban landscape, the film opens with Kathleen experiencing disturbing visions and a sense of existential dread. After being bitten by Casanova, she finds herself grappling with an insatiable thirst for human blood. This transformation serves as an allegory for addiction, exploring themes of sin, morality, and the darker aspects of human nature. With a runtime of 1 hour and 22 minutes, The Addiction uses striking black-and-white cinematography to enhance its bleak and haunting atmosphere. The film's unique visual style complements its philosophical undertones, as Kathleen's struggle reflects broader questions about existence and the human condition. Christopher Walken delivers a memorable performance as Pena, a fellow vampire who offers insights into the nature of their condition, adding depth to the narrative. The film is filled with philosophical musings, making it both intellectually stimulating and unsettling. Critically, The Addiction holds an IMDb rating of 6.5 out of 10. While some viewers may find its pacing slow or its themes heavy-handed, others appreciate its ambitious approach to horror. The film challenges conventional vampire tropes, opting instead for a more cerebral exploration of addiction and morality. As the film reaches its climax, Kathleen confronts the reality of her transformation. In a poignant final scene, she stands at the crossroads of her new existence, caught between the seductive allure of her vampiric nature and the remnants of her humanity. The screen fades to black just as she makes her choice, leaving viewers to ponder the consequences of her decision. The film closes with a haunting question echoing in the silence. Can one truly escape the darkness within, or does it become an inseparable part of us? Project Metalbeast, 1995. What if you combined werewolf mythology with liquid metal technology? That's the gloriously absurd premise of Metalbeast, where a military experiment to create super soldiers goes predictably wrong. A werewolf's body gets covered in experimental metal skin that's supposed to contain the beast, but instead creates a nearly indestructible armored werewolf that's immune to silver and incredibly angry. The film operates as military horror thriller with creature feature chaos. Barry Bostwick plays the obsessed military scientist whose experiments keep escalating despite mounting body counts, while Kim Delaney provides the ethical counterpoint as a doctor who realizes they're creating something unstoppable. The supporting cast navigates B-movie dialogue with appropriate seriousness. The Metalbeast design is impressively realized for the budget. A werewolf covered in metallic plating that makes it look like organic creature fused with machinery. The creature effects blend practical suits with animatronics, creating something that's both absurd concept and genuinely menacing presence. When it moves, the metal plating shifts and gleams, suggesting nearly unstoppable killing machine. Director Alessandro De Gaetano keeps the pacing brisk, understanding that films built on ridiculous premises work best when they don't linger on logic. The military facility setting provides corridors and laboratories for the creature to rampage through, while the isolated location ensures no easy escape. Project Metalbeast, high concept, modest budget, and total commitment to premise, regardless of absurdity. It's the kind of film that could only exist in that brief window when practical creature effects still dominated and concepts didn't need to make complete sense. Rumpelstiltskin, 1995. A single mother unknowingly awakens an ancient demon trapped in a stone statue, releasing Rumpelstiltskin into modern-day Los Angeles. This version of the fairytale creature isn't here to spin straw into gold. He's collecting on a debt forged centuries ago, and her newborn child is the payment. What follows is a relentless cat-and-mouse chase as the creature stalks mother and baby using dark magic and brutal violence. Mark Jones directs a straight-to-video horror spin on the classic story, stripping away any fairy tale charm and replacing it with leather-clad malevolence. Max Grodenchik plays the title monster with manic energy, leaning hard into exaggerated expressions and snarling one-liners that veer between dark humor and genuine menace. Kim Johnston-Ulrich grounds the film as the desperate mother, committing fully even when the material drifts into absurd territory. The practical effects reflect mid-1990s video store ingenuity, quick-cut transformations, magical attacks, and scrappy kills driven more by makeup and prosthetics than elaborate staging. Rumpelstiltskin's design is memorably grotesque, all gnarled features, pointed teeth, and exaggerated movement. The film never tries to hide its budget limitations, instead leaning into them as part of its identity. Rumpelstiltskin knows exactly what it is: cheap, nasty, and unapologetically ridiculous. It's the kind of high-concept horror that could only thrive in the direct-to-video era. Too strange for theaters, too committed to its premise to be dismissed outright. A guilty pleasure that delivers exactly what the VHS box promises. If you love discovering forgotten horror and cult cinema, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the films time forgot. Thanks for watching, and remember, always be kind and rewind, because every movie is someone's favorite.